Hi, welcome to Bar Cart Bookshelf, a video series about books and the drinks they inspire. My name is Elias, and today we're talking about Dead Country by Max Gladstone. Dead Country is the first volume in the Craft Wars Trilogy. It's the story of a craftsperson, sort of necromantic attorney, Tara Abernathy, as she goes home. It is the sort of culmination of what we've seen so far in the larger Craft sequence series, but it is something that functions as sort of a standalone on-ramp to the series. It's been a couple of years since I've read the earlier books in the series, starting with 3 Parts Dead, where we were introduced to Tara Abernathy, and reading Dead Country, I really found that I didn't have any trouble picking things back up, and if I were totally new to the world, I wouldn't have had any issues at all. So a real testament to Gladstone's thought and care as a writer in preparing this as something that can work for both long-term series fans and new readers alike. So, as I said, Dead Country is the story of Tara Abernathy, a craftsperson, these necromantic attorneys who negotiate the disbursement of divine wills and deal with the fact that souls are currency in this really sort of clever financial conceit of a world that is nevertheless like thriller pacing and action-packed. It really is one of those that's recognizably fantasy, but also in that funky, difficult to categorize zone where it's doing some really clever, big idea things. The sort of thing that we really expect from Gladstone, as you all know, or many of you may know. We covered Last Exit, his most recent standalone novel, last March, and it was one of my absolute favorite books of 2022. So, Dead Country, we're going back home. We've been the big city lawyer who was chased out of our small town for being a necromancer for a number of years now, Tara has. But she finds herself going home for her father's funeral. And so, in the midst of everything that's happening with the town, there's also this undercurrent of being someone who's gone away and come back home, the sort of thing that we're really interested in here on Bar Cart Bookshelf. Certainly a theme that's come up in a lot of the books that we've covered. The Blade Between by Sam J. Miller, Wake the Bones by Elizabeth Kilcoyne, for example. And so a true return to form for us with this one, and a really remarkable volume that works on its own, but also sets up the next 2 books of this sort of capstone trilogy. And so we're going home, we're negotiating the feeling of going home and the place that rejected us needing us as Tara, and also being a mentor for the first time. Tara picks up early on in the book a young woman who has similar necromantic abilities, the ability to use the sort of shadowy craft power here, and takes her under her wing, this sort of obligation to teach, to have someone wield power responsibly. And so you get this interesting perspective of someone who has reached the point in their life and in their career where they really are more of a mentor than a mentee, but this is the first time where that's the case. And so these early struggles with being a mentor and with understanding what it is to be a teacher and to move yourself into this new role and new orientation of that sort of dynamic was really just well done. So a real sort of balance of these cerebral idea things and going out into wastelands in this sort of corporatized, weird Western, we ride horses, but there are office buildings kind of vibe to do battle with these sort of zombified curse horde like creatures. So you get this really excellent tension and balance of these two competing or coordinating parts of the book. And of course, we had to have a cocktail. So without any further ado, why don't we turn to this week's drink? This is the Edgemont Cooler, inspired by Dead Country. We're going to start with 1 ounce of rye whiskey. That nice, sort of little bit sharp rye whiskey in there. A little bit of spice to it. I like that Old Overholt for our house rye. It works really well in cocktails. Not so much on its own, but it really does pair nicely when we've got it here in a cocktail. And then we're going to balance that out with 1 ounce of Amontillado sherry. This is just going to soften things up a bit and keep our ABV a little bit lower for this. So we have this sort of split base cocktail going on here. It's also going to bring a nice nuttiness to our drink. Something that works well for these transitional periods here at the start of spring and end of winter. Now, to sweeten things up, we're going to add 3/4 of an ounce of rooibos tea syrup, made with equal parts rooibos tea and sugar. At one point, Tara's mother serves her a red tea, and I don't know if there's rooibos in the world of the craft sequence and the Craft Wars, but for me, when I hear a red tea, I immediately go to that sort of herbal, vanilla-y rooibos, and it works really well here in our cocktail. Finally, to brighten things up, we're going to add 3/4 of an ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice, and we are all set. Get our ice in there. Always add your ice last. It's nice to have these sort of clear sequences of events in a world where doing things the right way and doing things in the sort of legally proper way matters in a major way. We're going to shake it up, wake it up. Lovely. Whoop. Oh, that smells wonderful. And then we'll get our glass here. As you can see, we've got the highball glass. We're going to get 3 more, get them down in there, 3 more ice cubes in there, just to keep it nice and cool and refreshing. We're going to strain our cocktail into there. Lovely. And as you can see, we still have some space in our glass. So we're going to top our Edgemont Cooler with, if I can get it open, there we go, some ginger beer. That nice, spicy ginger beer, good for those like late winter, early spring highballs. Lovely. And so there you have it. This is the Edgemont Cooler, inspired by Dead Country by Max Gladstone. Dead Country is available today. A huge thank you to the publisher Tor.com for sending me a copy in advance so that we could cover this book on its release day. It is the first volume in the Craft Wars Trilogy, a sort of standalone on-ramp to the craft sequence. This is a world that takes place, a story that takes place about 100 years after the God Wars carved a scar into the world. So I can only imagine how gonzo, how world-changing the continuing volumes of this trilogy are going to be. Definitely one to read if you're a craft sequence fan. Definitely one to check out if this is your first introduction to the world. Sort of Ace Attorney with necromancers. and there's a link to snag the book in the description below. We also have a link to the Boston Shaker, where we get all of our tools and ingredients, things like this lovely diamond-cut highball glass, reminiscent of some of the sort of prismatic changes in the world there in the waste in these wilderness lands. Things like the jigger, the shaker, the strainer, all of that, the Boston Shaker, got a link in the description below. We have links to various forms, so many links, to various forms of social media, including Twitter and Instagram, where there is a written version of today's recipe. Please try the drink. Let me know what you think. Hit that like button. It makes me so happy. Subscribe if you haven't already. Chat about the craft sequence in the comments, because these books are rad, and I'm looking forward to rereading some previous volumes, looking forward to seeing where the Craft Wars Trilogy goes from here. And until next time, cheers.